Welcome back, everybody, to the Jujutsu Kaisen watch-along podcast from Nerdy Jock Media. I'm joined, as always, by Kevin Ketchum, the Nerdy Jock, who is the #1 cursed tool user.
And I am joined by my co-host, DK, who has been known to do 10 black flashes in a row.
That's right, everybody.
Yes, super strong.
Speaking of doing things in a row, if you're joining us, then you know that we have a different format that we've been doing where we are recording multiple episodes in a row, but we are releasing episode by episode. So you have better bite-sized chunks, especially because there is a little bit of narrative whiplash in this show where one episode will be about one thing, one episode will be about another. And if you string them all together, the impressions that we get, you know, as a malaise of experience through the entire thing doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So
it's easier to go in episode by episode in this series. We've figured out.
Yeah, we've found out. I mean, when we were doing Dragon Ball, we were going like 10 to 17 at a time.
But that worked.
It did.
That works.
Because it was a much longer plot and it didn't change up as much. Generally, the plot of Dragon Ball kind of stays consistent until the arc is over. And then even a little bit beyond, it will kind of advance the arc a little bit. Jujutsu Kaisen, not that kind of story, but this episode by episode format has been great.
Yeah.
We're today covering episode 19, Black Flash. So,
DK.
Yeah.
Is this not the best episode in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen so far?
Dude, we talked about it last time.
Yes.
This episode and the next episode, non-standard, are the gold standard.
#1, guys. These are my favorite episodes. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, guys, check it out. My shirt. I am wearing the Todo Yuji shirt. This is the best bromance you could see in an anime. I think we're gonna have to do a best bromance as an anime top 10 list eventually, maybe top 5 list, something like that, because this is one of them.
As crazy as it sounds, I told my girlfriend about this. I was like, you need to watch these 2 episodes because I don't feel like a better representation of male friendship has ever been committed to screen before.
They pull no punches. Yeah. Pun intended. Yeah.
No, this episode is fantastic, and it really just hits the ground running.
Everything.
As are we. So we jump right in. We've got Inumaki, Kamo, and Megumi still fighting
Hanami,
and they're doing it in this kind of Demon Souls Elden Ring style.
Right. If you're a gamer, you'll know.
Right, where it's this action strategic sort of thing where Inumaki has to use cursed speech to freeze Hanami.
Stop.
They have to get one hit in and then they have to retreat.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any other plan because they know Hanami can heal very quickly. They know Hanami's a special great curse. And to be completely honest, they're kind of outclassed at this moment, right?
Yeah. This is like, if there is an equivalent, I keep bringing up Naruto, but if this is the Chunin exam, this is like if Orochimaru started fighting all of the kids.
Right.
Which I guess happens at one point, but not seriously. When Orochimaru fights Sasuke early in that arc. But, I mean, this is like for keeps.
Right. And Dan, you always talk about stakes, and this is exactly the kind of stakes you want to see when you want an engaging episode, right?
Yeah.
Because you know these guys, they're no match for Hanami, but they got to get out of there. But they're still in a veil, right? So they're locked away kind of at this moment. Could they get out? Yes. But it's dangerous because Gojo can't get in there. They're #1 protector.
Right.
So what are they going to do? I don't know.
Also from just a level design, if this is a video game too, at the beginning, they're running through this giant sort of building with all these long hallways. I mean, they can't see where stuff is going to come from. So it definitely has this very high stakes, urgency to it, which works really well.
Yeah, I mean, Hanami has the ability of earth. She's like, a tree / pretty much all of earth, flowers, everything. And you're seeing these huge tendrils, like sharp tendrils that could basically impale anyone at any moment, Sharp knives coming out of everywhere, but like made by wood. And it's disastrous. And if you're watching like us as fans, you're worried they're going to get hit.
Right.
This is nothing to scoff at.
And speaking of plants, I got to give more flowers to our boy Inumaki because I mean he's really doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and much like what I love to see. You guys hear me rant about this with Kaioken all the time, is that there are consequences for his technique.
Exactly.
Which is why he has to never use it, why he speaks in sushi or rice ball recipes all the time, because it destroys his throat the more he uses it. And he reaches his limit pretty quick, and they're just running away. He's coughing up blood.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, Megumi's like, oh no, his throat is destroyed.
And this is a great moment to talk about this, to take not a huge side tangent, but a little side tangent. A couple episodes ago, the Maki and Mai fight in episode 17, we were Tokyo Battle Part 3, that episode. We were mentioning how it's all exposition, and not much growth, right?
Yes.
This one episode, probably in what, 5 to 10 minute span, we see Inumaki learn to use his technique, not learn to use his techniques, but using his technique to save his friends, to get a little bit of distance between him and Hanami, because Hanami is extremely powerful, can shoot up tree branches from anywhere in the world that could kill anyone, impale him in the local vicinity. And we know that he's not going to say much, but when he says it, it's important.
Yes.
And that's the whole point. It's like not wasting your lines or energy is the same thing as like over wasting exposition. And so even though we were talking trash a couple episodes about the Maki Mai fight, Inumaki is a perfect example, guys, of not having to speak much, but to have a well-defined character, right? Because we know that Inumaki, every breath he takes, every voice, every move.
I was about to start singing.
No, yeah. every syllable he utters that's not a sushi roll is gonna have a significant toll on his life expectancy and his ability to live.
Yeah, I mean, this is great stuff. I mean,
Great stuff.
We complained earlier about the over verbosity of all the characters. There's just
Right.
way too much talking about philosophy or backstory or whatever. Inumaki has none of that. He can have none of that. We complained earlier about the evenness of the fights,
Right.
having no stakes or providing no consequences to
Right.
people. And then, like you said, 5 minutes. We have so much more character development with Inumaki using this technique and paying the toll for it than we had for Momo, Miwa, Mai,
Megumi.
Panda, Mekamaru.
Yes.
Everybody. I mean, everybody. I mean, even Kamo. Like, he
Yes.
uses blood. He's using EPO to enhance his blood arrow technique.
Right.
There are no consequences for it, though.
Right.
He never goes like, oh, I used too much. I mean, imagine this, like a reimagining of his fight with Megumi for a second. Megumi is completely overwhelmed. This guy can use, like, tracking arrows or whatever. And Megumi realizes, like, hey, maybe if I just take a certain amount of damage, there's a threshold that is acceptable for damage that I take, knowing that there's going to be a consequence on Kamo later. And then Kamo's about to deliver the final blow, and then he slumps. Like,
Exactly.
oh, I used too much blood. And Megumi's like, yep, I was waiting for that. And he goes, new way, summons that bird, and the bird just boom, smashes into him. Or something like that. There you go. Stakes, tactics, all of this stuff. We've got it all here. This is
Yes.
it. I mean,
This is
nobody's a
great.
match for Hanami. So
But okay. Last rant. And that's exactly why the point you just made and I just made shows why we get frustrated on the episodes where it's exposition city.
Right.
We're not gonna dwell on that, but like that's why. So when we explain Inumaki now in his responses, his lack of dialogue, but just his actions, what he's doing, it just shows so much more character than we've seen in a lot of these other characters.
yeah, and they up the ante in this
Yes.
thing. They do the Dragon Ball thing. So he's at his limit. He's coughing up blood.
Blood is profusely coming out of his throat. I mean, you think
Yeah.
he has internal bleeding for sure.
And so you think they do the Megumi
Yeah.
character development tease again, where he almost does like a Hadouken. He's getting
Yeah.
ready to finally reveal this mysterious power, but then Inumaki stops him, walks forward, and even though he's at his limit, he says the most consequential thing that he
Yes.
said, where he's like, blast away.
Boom!
Yeah, and it's
What a cool moment.
yeah, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hitting. This is why I love shonen storytelling. It's all of this
So
stuff
good.
right here. It's like put a limit, overcome the limit, pay the price
Yes.
for it. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And Hanami gets blasted through the damn building. It is an epic launch of power and display of Inumaki's innate strength, or strength that we have not seen yet from this character.
Right.
And it was just such a cool moment, and the music in the scene is getting better, and it pumps up every episode on this point as well. But
and then Maki randomly joins the fight.
yes, which is another amazing cool sequence, but also another problem because she just like randomly shows out of nowhere. Not even a running to the thing. You know, Megumi could run up
Or
the
not,
stairs
not even
earlier.
like somebody's about to die.
Yeah.
And like Maki is gonna, or maybe that did happen and maybe I just forgot. But it would have been great if she had shown up when everybody was defeated. Like Megumi's about to die.
Right.
Kamo's about to die. Inumaki's about to die. And then all of a sudden, Maki shows
Right.
up and just busts out her 3-section staff and goes to town.
And here's my deal. And this is one of my favorite episodes, by the way.
Yeah.
So don't hate on me. But I'm saying, like, you need to have an establishing action. If you don't have an establishing shot, you need to have an establishing action for a character. So, like in Naruto, if someone's about to die, maybe you'll see a throwing star go and pierce someone's cheek, or do something like that to say, okay, someone else has entered the battle. But with Maki, she just shows up and boom, attacks Hanami. So I'm like, where did she come from?
Yeah,
we didn't know where she was on the map. It didn't show her running to the characters saying, oh my gosh, look over there. It looks like they need help. She shows up out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, she's here, which is great.
It does break the momentum a little bit. Because she shows up, she first attacks with Miwa's sword. She breaks Miwa's sword. So then she's like, okay, well now I have to go and get a different weapon. And we see her little weapon dimension trunk.
Yeah.
She gives Megumi a sword.
Exactly.
And she gets her 3-section staff. And then they just start tag teaming Hanami with these weapons because they're special grade curse tools.
Which is a great, cool sequence as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's awesome. But it also, like you said, it feels a little bit like this is happening and now this is happening instead of this is happening but this happens, therefore this happens.
So if you're watching a live action film and you've all seen it, we've all seen it, any live action film, you're like, hey, where'd they come from? What is this from? That's when you realize in the cutting room floor in the editing bay, they cut a scene out that was kind of crucial to connect the tissue for the episode. They left it out, that's probably one of my biggest complaints about JJK. But I'm not dwelling on complaints right now because this episode kicks ass.
It does. We won't dwell on this.
Yeah.
Maki and Megumi, they're tag teaming. Yeah, it's great. And this 3-section staff, it actually
Tell us about this staff.
It does damage. It's called the something cloud. I forget.
It's called the Playful Cloud.
Playful Cloud, yeah. And Maki, just being the badass that she is, she's able to actually do some good damage to Hanami. They're holding their own until we have another stake added where this bulb shoots into Megumi's stomach that starts sprouting, and it feeds off curse energy.
It's got this little laugh
yeah, it's a little shop of horrors kind of vibe to it, and so he can't use the curse energy anymore. And then Maki gets her glasses knocked off, and they don't explicitly show this in the episode, but that means that she can't see Hanami anymore.
Right.
And Hanami's strangling her. She's being held up. Megumi can't do anything. He's debating whether he's going to rip his stomach out to save Maki. I mean, there's this thing. And then she goes, no, we're good because now it's time for us to tag out.
Right. But this is, I'm glad you mentioned that her glasses got knocked off, guys. And if you guys remember, guys, Maki can't see cursed spirits without those glasses, right?
Yeah, she can't see anything, yeah.
So if I were writing this episode, I probably would have mentioned oh man, without my glasses, that takes her out of the battle.
That would have been cool.
That's a huge plot point that could have been expressed more. Does she have contacts that can see cursed spirits? I don't think so.
Probably not. I don't think she's doubling up with contacts and glasses.
I don't think so.
Maybe she should get contacts though, because glasses, they do get knocked off pretty easily.
So there we go. We need to get cursed spirit contacts where you can see cursed energy and spirits with contacts, so Maki doesn't have to just use her cursed energy glasses to see it.
I mean, it would have been cool if she had tried to do something. Maybe she had like a cursed knife in her thing, and she's reaching out and doing it. And then Hanami or even Megumi has a line, like that classic shonen exposition, which I don't mind at all, where he's like, no good. She can't see it because she can't see cursed spirits or whatever. And Hanami's just like, oh, is this all you've got? And she's just desperate.
She's blindly trying to fight, and Hanami's saying oh, I can kill her right now.
Right.
Boom.
I mean, we get that Maki's a badass, and I don't think it takes anything away from her to show moments of vulnerability.
Right.
Because we have to see that to know just how truly outclassed they are by Hanami. So if she's being strangled, she can't see what she's doing. If we have a moment where we finally see Maki afraid, I feel like that would have really enhanced the sequence a little bit. But instead, I just had to remember that was part of the world building.
But I love this sequence. I love this whole episode. I'm gonna say it 100 more times before this episode's over, but I do love them explaining the playful cloud. Before we move on from this, I do want to mention they give a quick explanation saying that there are cursed tools that we've seen before. Yuji used one earlier in previous episode, but they're explaining the playful cloud and how it's a special grade cursed tool, okay? So the cursed tools or weapons are on the same scale as a cursed spirit. So the higher grade the tool, the more powerful it is against a cursed spirit.
Right. So a cursed grade special tool can fight a cursed grade
spirit.
Or
and that was super important for the
our,
plot.
our special grade curse. That's right.
Yeah, I know. We're getting tongue tied here, but it's important because like that does pay off, and it's important for the next episode. I think, but
yeah, I mean,
we'll get there when we get there next episode.
But now they tag out because Todo and Yuji show up
in the most epic Power Ranger-esque, like, hey, we're here to save the day. I think some special music comes on, like, and they're tagging out. Let's get out of here. Let's save Megumi. And then you see Yuji do an attack on the ground. He misses, but it's a cool entrance.
Exactly. And Megumi, kind of being a voice of reason here, doesn't want Yuji to fight Hanami because he's like, well, I mean, Yuji just came back from the dead.
Yeah.
And he's a first year. He's less experienced than me.
And what does he say? It's great.
Oh, yeah. Todo is like, you can't stop somebody who's about to grow wings or something.
He's like, you can't stop someone who's about to grow their wings. And then Megumi says, no. Megumi says, I swear to God, if you die again, I'll kill you myself.
Yeah.
So it's a great moment because that moment actually shows relationship growth between Megumi and Yuji.
Yeah.
So like that one line, guys, one line said more than a couple episodes.
Yeah,
But, anyway.
it has threaded the needle through the various points that we've already had. I mean, Megumi was the reason that Yuji was spared by Gojo to begin with.
But in this point of the episode, now we are pumped, right? We get to see Todo and Yuji, the badass brothers, going at it.
And we know a little bit that Todo was helping Yuji access his cursed energy more efficiently to give him a good fight. And Todo tells him, like, hey, I'm not going to interfere at all. You need to land at least one black flash.
And we're like watching for the first time. You're like, what the hell is a black flash?
Yeah, he's basically testing him. He's like, I'm not going to join the fight until you can pull off what I've taught you off screen.
Because now we know that Todo and Yuji are best friends already from their previous fight in the woods, right?
Right.
We know, and we know that Todo used that more of as a training battle than it was, or more of a sparring match than it was even a actual, hey, I'm going to try to knock you out. It was like, you know what? I think we could be best friends because you'd like chicks that look like Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. I mean, he had the whole little fantasy, which was funny. I mean, and now the bromance seems like it has fully codified at this point.
It is, to use Hanami's arm in perspective, it has blossomed.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that later.
Yeah,
because
we'll get to that later.
Hanami grows a giant flower out of her arm.
Left arm, yeah.
And stuff like after it gets blasted off. But you get this cool little moment, too, where you realize that Yuji is still pissed off about Junpei. And so he says, are you allied with a cursed spirit that looks all sewn up Frankenstein style? And all Hanami has to do is say that anime line, like, what if I am? And then Yuji just is off to the races, just swinging for the fences against Hanami.
And he's swinging, and you can see his cursed energy in his fist. So he does have access and control over his cursed energy, which he had trouble with earlier. And it's serious. But he can't land a punch right now, right? He's missing.
He lands punches, and Hanami is just kind of being like, oh, this is like pretty good, but it's not like a problem yet.
She's like, oh, that's cute.
And again, we know that Todo is instructing him, and Todo pulls him aside and kind of smacks him.
This is a great moment because he does, right? He pulls him aside, he slaps him, and then Hanami's just watching the fight, and Hanami's reacting. Because the great thing about Hanami's character is her exposition, she's actually learning, and she's like learning about humanity. So so you don't feel like you're wasting time or being, there's no grandiose self-explanation happening because Hanami's actually learning about humanity in all of its regards. And she's like, wait, they're allies, but he just slapped him? What is going on here?
They're fighting, yeah.
They're fighting.
And then we get, I would say, kind of the first pointless exposition dump of this episode where Todo is just like, says something that we've already heard before. You can't just run on hate. You can't just run on anger. It's going to create too much dissonance in your mind and you won't be able to access the thing perfectly. Like you have to blah, 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 blah. I don't even remember exactly what he says, but he's giving them this stuff. And
intense focus. You have to have like an intense focus on what you need to do.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to be in the zone. You need to have
the zone.
You need to have this intense focus. But it caps off with finally he's like, do you understand now, brother? He slaps him again. He's like, now have I cleared your head of all the dumb things you were thinking? And Yuji's like, yeah, my best friend.
Yeah, my best friend. He's like, all right, you can do this, Yuji.
Yeah.
And it's great because he does. Okay, Hanami's getting ready for another attack. And then Yuji, in his moment, he gets an intense focus. Hanami mentions it. She's like, wow, he's focused.
Because he's drooling.
He's drooling. And that's what I have to mention. You can see drool coming down his mouth, which is hilarious and also really cool at the same time. She's like, oh man, something's happening. Yuji's in a elevated state of concentration, which means hopefully he's going to land this punch.
What I just said, I completely forgot that there was actually something awesome folded into all the stuff that Todo said, where he's like, look, you've got so many reasons to be angry. Like, obviously your friend got hurt, this happened, it's interrupting the festival, and like more importantly, it's interrupting our bro, like,
our
honeymoon.
Friendship. Yeah,
like our bro honeymoon.
Our bro honeymoon. He's like, and they just ruined and dampened our. And you know what? Okay, so we complain about exposition dumps all the time, but I'll tell you this right now: whenever Todo does an exposition dump, I don't mind.
Whenever Todo says anything, it is a roar from his soul, revealing who he is, and it's like,
and it's amazing, and that's why this is so great. This is why I love these 2 episodes so much.
Yeah, and so Yuji does finally land a Black Flash, which is extremely consequential. Hurts Hanami, and then Todo jumps into the fight as well.
So let me explain Black Flash for you guys. I mean, you probably already know. If you're watching along right now, you do. But if you don't, I'll give you a quick, brief breakdown. Is that Black Flash, it's basically a distortion in space, right? When your cursed energy is applied in a physical hit, that within a trillionth of a second. So it's basically a sploid on. Earlier Yuji had trouble getting the hit off and then the cursed energy. This is like once hit the second the cursed energy is flowing through your body and you feel it, right? And it delivers 2.5 times the normal power from a punch that you could normally get with cursed energy. So Yuji's already dynamically strong as a human. With cursed energy, he's even stronger. But imagine him with Black Flash technique.
And also, there are limits immediately established. That because we get a little exposition dump from Nanami randomly, like it cuts to Nanami, and it's like it's really, really difficult to hit this 2 or 3 times in a row.
It's a flashback, of course. They do a flashback, but I don't mind it because Nanami's talking about Black Flash to Yuji. He's explaining it to him. And this is a scene, obviously, we haven't seen before. It is a flashback, but for a new episode, which they do quite often in JJK.
Right.
And he said, my max was 2 in a row. Right?
Yeah, but Yuji's able to land 4.
So, I mean, and not just land 4, we're not even giving it enough credit and enough respect as it gets because the animation sequence for a Black Flash is epic.
Oh, yeah.
It looks amazing. It is gorgeous. It is cool as hell. The music is pumping. It is primed. And he is just kicking Hanami's ass with Todo.
Yeah, Todo jumps in. They're both landing Black Flashes back to back. Hanami has to now get serious. Like, grows into this giant form, just this monstrous tree, tendrilic, form that Yuji and Todo have to run up.
Yeah.
And then makes the branches disappear so they're falling, tries to impale them.
And they do the most epic bro move ever. And if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to demonstrate it right now.
It's like
they're like, oh God, we could die. And Todo's making a statement saying, oh wow, great move by Hanami because if it hits us, we're pretty much dead because we can't move. And then they say,
my brother! I just kick apart.
They kick off each other with cursed energy. And it's amazing. What a great sequence. Is this episode not amazing?
It's great.
Good.
It's really, I was super pumped watching this. Yeah. That's basically the end of this episode. The fight continues in the next episode. So I'll cap this off. I can't talk about how much I love this episode.
I could watch this probably 10 to 12 times in a row and not even be bored.
I do have one problem though, which maybe you don't, which I'll go into, which is that Yuji's growth in this show has 100% occurred off screen.
Right.
Which pisses me off. It's basically he is told about something, we don't see it happen, and then he shows up and he can do new stuff.
He Mary Sue's it, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't say.
Mary Sue it.
I would say he bleaches it.
He bleaches it.
It's like Bleach versus, or not Bleach. Yeah, the main character of Bleach, whose name is Bleach. No, it's Ichigo versus Aizen. Ichigo is no match for Aizen, and okay. Here's my problem with this. Hanami is stronger than a special grade curse, right?
Right.
And the stakes that we have established, which are great, are that these kids are no match for Hanami. Maybe they can get in a couple of shots and they'll have to retreat, but that's about it. At this point, it kind of feels like Yuji, who's the least experienced sorcerer of all, is going toe-to-toe with this thing through growth that exclusively happened off screen. Now, I hear people already complaining, DK, what are you talking about? You talked earlier about how you liked how the training at King Kai's planet occurred off screen and the mystery that it set up for Goku. Here's how it's different. When we set up the King Kai training, we saw immediately how hard it was. It was an obstacle. It wasn't an exposition dump. He was literally on a planet with 10 times gravity, and he had 6 months to learn how to be stronger than people that were way stronger than the guy he died fighting. So you have all of that. Then he shows up. He only learns 2 things, guys. He learns a technique that multiplies his power at the expense of his physical body. So it destroys his body, multiplying his power. And he learns another technique which takes so long to build up that it's easy for the enemy to literally just grab him, destroy the energy ball, and crush every bone in his body.
I.e. Spirit Bomb.
Yes, which is exactly
Genkidama.
What happens. Like, so far, all we have seen is that Todo gives Yuji this exposition dump of this is how you use curse energy more efficiently, which was cool. But now Yuji shows up and he can land an attack more than any other person that can actually damage Hanami, and it all occurred off screen. And this isn't the first time this has happened, though. He's only grown off screen after an exposition dump. And it kind of, now I feel, even though I love the animation, I love the stuff, I love the bromance between Todo and Yuji, it does piss me off a little bit that now by the end of this episode, it kind of feels a little bit like the stakes are gone.
Interesting.
It feels like Yuji is at a level that is, he can contend with the Jogos and the Hanamis of this world, which feels a little unearned, I must say. And that's my rant.
That is a great point. I love that. And I'm going to use this moment before we end this episode to actually do the counterpoint to that rant.
Awesome.
That was actually makes sense. And because of DK was just talking about the Dragon Ball Z Megapod, I just want to take a minute to plug that. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on YouTube and all the streaming services. Under our anime podcast, we have a Dragon Ball Z Megapod. We've already covered everything from the Raditz to Vegeta to Frieza saga. We're done with that now. And then pretty soon we're going to be heading into the androids and Cell, Garlic Jr., all that fun stuff next. So if you haven't caught up, watch those episodes because they are live and active on YouTube and all streaming services for you to enjoy.
Relive your childhood with us.
Relive your childhood with us. So my only comment on that, because you are absolutely right. I'm not arguing this fact. I'm just going to try to make a quick point for I get it. You're right, DK. You're right.
That's right. If you have a argue it. I'm 100%.
It's not even so much an argument because I agree. All of his growth has happened off screen, which is frustrating because you do want to see the training moments, like any kind of live action movie. There's a montage or something that gives you a brief breakdown of what's going on. But this one doesn't have that. But in my case, because it's Yuji who is the main character of this shonen anime / manga, the show, it's like I think he kind of gets a free pass because a lot of times this is not the only one. DK, in most shonen mangas and animes, the main character, he's going to have that extra little bit of grit, the extra little survivor power, the Goku, the Yu Yu Hakusho, everyone who wants to get a little bit ahead, who says, hey, I'm going to fight harder. I'm going to do my best to survive. The Rurouni Kenshin, I'm going to do the one thing different. Like, it's not so much that it's unearned. It's just like, I've just come to expect it at this point.
I mean, totally.
So, I'm not even upset.
There is protagonist, there is protagonist privilege in a lot of anime, and there are.
I like that word, protagonist privilege.
Protagonist privilege. I'm trademarking that right now. And there are also Zenkai moments in shonen where you get like this massive power up out of nowhere. This happens. It is to be expected. However, I feel like in this case, the fact that it happened off screen, the fact that we've exposition dumped that Black Flash takes a huge toll on the body, people can't land it over and over again. It is this power up that occurred off screen for which there are no consequences and which Yuji has no problem using like a million times in a row. So all it did was it took the stakes from here and it leveled them out. It did it in a visually cool way, I will say, but it's hardly, I would say, like that thing, because if we're talking about Naruto, we're talking about Kenshin. If we're talking about Naruto learning the Rasengan, for instance, we spent 10 episodes with him training with Jiraiya and how hard it was and how he had to invent his own way with the shadow clones to do that. Kenshin couldn't beat Shishio Makoto unless he became Hitokiri once again. He became a manslayer once again, unless he learned, the two final moves of the Hita Mitsurugi school, the Kuzuryu-sen and the Amakakiryu no Hirameki or whatever, which also put his life and his body in danger. These things were well built up. We had maybe 5 minutes of exposition 3 episodes ago from Todo.
Okay.
And now Yuji can, just carte blanche use one of the most powerful moves that we've seen in this show with 0 consequences.
Okay, I get it. No, I totally get what you're saying. I'm there with you. Like, I'm not going to argue that because I was trying to make a counter argument. The truth is I don't have one. But I'm saying is what you didn't get, I think what's most frustrating is not that he can do this moves, and there's no catalyst for the actions. Like, it's not that it happened off screen. It's like when Goku goes Super Saiyan for the first time, it's Krillin gets exploded, right?
Yes.
Like, there's catalysts for this. Like, there can be unexplained growth moments where it's like, oh, wow, exponential gains of power. But, like, there needs to be, like, an emotional catalyst to trigger the physical manifestation of that power.
Right. If Ichigo just shows up and he's stronger than Aizen, which, spoiler alert, that's what happens in Bleach. Aizen is the Frieza of Bleach. Ichigo is no match for him. He trains with his dad off screen for like a day in like another dimension, and then he shows up and he's way stronger than Aizen.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, where Bleach lost me. It went from being one of my favorite shows to just being, oh, this is BS. I don't like this anymore. And I feel like that's also kind of where a lot of people started to fall off.
So what you're saying is that in this show in general, like, we are really missing the catalysts and the stakes, right?
Yes.
The stakes that raise it to make the catalyst, to make it a worthy note or like increase in power is basically what we're missing. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, the only thing that's holding all of this beautiful animation and this fight together is Yuji and Todo's relationship.
And it is what a great relationship.
Yeah, everybody loves their dynamic. That's what's holding it together. You said that there's no catalyst. I mean, the catalyst in that respect is that Todo
says, I'm going to let you die. If you don't.
He's trying to teach Yuji through a high stakes scenario. And it's like their relationship is the only thing really holding this together. But it's enough for me to love this episode.
Right. I love it.
Yeah, it's enough. I mean, I'll have the gripes about Black Flash. I hope that at some point in this show, we move away from these off-screen moments and we can actually have a more traditional shonen moment where we can see Yuji struggle with something. Because he hasn't struggled with anything so far.
But yeah, but it just, I get exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. I just think we do need, like, in this situation, if Todo was near death or Hanami had him in death's grip and was like about to destroy him, and then he was able to unleash the Black Flash, it would have had a more significant emotional impact on all of us.
Yeah, if he was unable to do it, and then something happened, and then he was able to do it. Which people might be like, that's cliche. That's a Zenkai thing. That's shonen. That's what we're here for, baby.
Storytelling, baby.
That's what I like about this stuff. Yeah, it's like, I mean, like, I can literally see that in anime over and over and over again.
Never gets old.
Hajime no Ippo has been doing it nonstop since 1986, and it's still my favorite manga of all time because it can still do it in a fresh way every single time. It's a great formula.
Yeah.
Like, use it. Use the world building. Use the relationships.
Don't change it if it ain't broken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's episode 19, Black Flash.
What a great episode. And we're going to see you guys next time on episode 19, which is called...
Episode 20.
Or 20, sorry. 20...
Which is called Non-Standard.
Non-Standard, that's right.
And I'll briefly give some flowers to the JJ Stroll. We see Juzo describing for Mahito exactly how he would turn Gojo's spine and hips into a coat rack. And it's really, really dumb.
Yeah.
And
kind of cringeworthy too, actually. It's a little bit awkward.
And Mahito just caps it just saying like, nobody needs it. It's just like, which all these things, they are just little bits that
they're meant to give levity to heavy situations, which I do appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah. But that's episode 19, Black Flash. Please join us next time for episode 20, Non-Standard. We'll catch you there. Thank you so much.
See you next time, guys.
Peace.
All right. Great show.